When I first got into caravanning, I spent hours watching YouTube videos, scrolling through Facebook groups, and researching caravan accessories online. Everywhere I looked, somebody was recommending another gadget, another tool, another upgrade, another must have item. Before long, my shopping list was growing faster than my confidence. And here's what I eventually discovered. Most caravanners don't need half the things they're told they need. In fact, many people end up spending thousands of dollars on accessories they rarely use. So in this video, I want to focus on the caravan essentials you actually need. Not the things that look impressive, not the things that sound exciting, the things that genuinely make caravanning easier, safer, and more enjoyable. Let's start with the absolute basics. The first essential is a good water hose. Now that might not sound very exciting. Nobody dreams about buying a water hose, but you'll use it constantly. Whether you're staying in caravan parks, filling tanks, or topping up water supplies, a quality drinking water safe hose is one of the most useful items you'll own. And trust me, buying a decent hose from the beginning is worth it. Cheap hoses tend to kink, split, and become frustrating very quickly. Along with a good hose, you'll also want a few common hose fittings and adapters. Not every tap is the same, and sooner or later, you'll arrive somewhere that requires a different fitting. Having a small collection of adapters can save a lot of frustration. Now let's talk about power. Another genuine essential is a quality power lead. If you're staying in caravan parks, you'll be connecting to powered sites regularly. A reliable power lead isn't optional. It's one of those items you'll use over and over again. And just like hoses, quality matters. A good lead will last for years and provide peace of mind. While we're talking about campsite setup, another essential item is wheel chocks. These are simple, they're affordable, and they're incredibly important. Wheel chocks help prevent unwanted caravan movement while parked, particularly when you're setting up, unhitching, or camping on slightly uneven ground. Many beginners underestimate how useful wheel chocks are until they actually start traveling. Once you've used them a few times, you'll never want to camp without them. Another essential that makes life much easier is a set of leveling ramps. Very few campsites are perfectly flat. In fact, most aren't. And trying to live in a caravan that's noticeably out of level can become annoying very quickly. Doors don't behave properly, water doesn't drain correctly, sleeping can even feel uncomfortable. Leveling ramps allow you to quickly level your van and make your campsite much more comfortable. They're simple, they're effective, and they're something most caravanners use regularly. Now let's move on to one of the most overlooked essentials, a basic toolkit. Notice I said basic, not a giant workshop. One mistake many beginners make is carrying enough tools to rebuild an entire vehicle. The reality is you usually only need a small selection of common tools, a few screwdrivers, pliers, adjustable spanners, electrical tape, a utility knife, a tire pressure gauge, and a handful of other practical items. You want enough tools to handle small jobs and minor issues, not enough tools to add unnecessary weight and clutter. Now, speaking of tire pressure gauges, this is another genuine essential. Tires are one of the most important safety components on both your vehicle and caravan. Correct tire pressures affect towing stability, tire life, fuel economy, and overall safety. Checking tire pressures regularly is one of the simplest habits you can develop as a caravanner. And a good tire pressure gauge makes that process easy. Another item that I consider essential is a first aid kit. Hopefully you'll never need it, but if you do, you'll be very glad it's there. Cuts, burns, splinters, minor injuries, they can happen anywhere. Whether you're at a caravan park, free camp, beach, or bush campsite, A well-stocked first aid kit provides peace of mind and can be incredibly valuable when traveling. Now let's talk about lighting. A quality torch or headlamp is something every caravaner should carry. It sounds simple, but you'll be surprised how often you use it. Checking connections at night, walking to amenities, looking inside storage compartments, handling unexpected situations after dark. Good lighting makes everything easier. Personally, I prefer rechargeable options because they're convenient and reduce the need to carry spare batteries. Now here's another essential that many people don't think about until they need it. A tire inflator. If you're traveling longer distances, exploring regional areas, or adjusting pressures for different conditions, a portable air compressor can be incredibly useful. It gives you flexibility, it provides convenience, and it allows you to maintain proper tire pressures wherever you are. Again, this isn't a glamorous purchase, but it's one of those items that often proves its value when you least expect it. Now, before we continue, I want to mention something important. The best caravan setups are not necessarily the most expensive, they're often the most practical. The people enjoying caravanning the most aren't always the ones with the biggest solar systems, the fanciest gadgets, or the most expensive accessories. They're often the people who have simple, reliable setups that meet their actual needs. And that's the mindset I want you to keep throughout this video. Focus on essentials first, the things you'll genuinely use. The things that improve safety, convenience, and comfort. Because once you get those basics right, everything else becomes much easier. And honestly, that's where great caravanning starts. Now that we've covered some of the basic essentials, let's move on to the things that make everyday caravanning significantly easier. And one of the first items on that list is storage containers. This might sound incredibly simple, but good organization can completely transform your caravanning experience. When I first started traveling, I simply put things wherever they would fit. The result? I could never find anything. Every time I needed a hose fitting, a torch, some cable ties, or a tool, I had to search through multiple cupboards and storage compartments. It became frustrating very quickly. That's why I now recommend using simple storage tubs, containers, or organizers. Nothing fancy. Just practical storage solutions that keep similar items together. When everything has a place, setup becomes easier, pack up becomes easier, and daily life becomes easier. Another essential item is cable ties. Honestly, cable ties might be one of the most useful things you'll ever carry. They're lightweight, they're cheap, and they solve all sorts of problems. Securing loose cables, organizing hoses, temporary repairs, tidying storage areas. You probably won't think about them very often until the day you need them, and then you'll be glad they're there. Alongside cable ties, I always recommend carrying duct tape. Again, it's not exciting, but it can be incredibly useful for temporary repairs and unexpected situations. Many experienced travelers carry both because they're simple, inexpensive, and surprisingly versatile. Now let's talk about outdoor living, because one of the best parts of caravanning is spending time outside. And for that reason, comfortable camping chairs are absolutely worth having. You'll probably use them every day. Morning coffee, afternoon relaxation, campfire chats, sunset views. Good chairs make a difference. The same applies to a folding outdoor table if your caravan doesn't already provide enough outdoor workspace. Sometimes the simplest items are the ones that get used the most. Another essential that many beginners overlook is a quality rubbish storage solution. Nobody talks about rubbish when they first get into caravanning, but managing rubbish becomes part of daily life very quickly. Whether you're free camping or staying in caravan parks, having a dedicated rubbish system keeps your campsite cleaner and more organized. It's one of those small details that improves the overall experience. Now let's move on to water management. One item that becomes incredibly useful is a portable water container. There will be times when moving the entire caravan to refill water isn't practical. A portable container allows you to transport water easily when needed, particularly if you're staying in one location for several days. Many experienced caravanners carry at least one for this exact reason. Another useful essential is a grey water hose and, where required, a grey water container. Different locations have different requirements. Some caravan parks require grey water management. Certain free camping areas may have specific rules. Having the right equipment means you're prepared wherever you travel. Now let's talk about safety for a moment. A fire extinguisher is something every caravan should have. Many caravans come equipped with one already, but it's worth checking its condition and ensuring you know where it's located. The same applies to a fire blanket. Hopefully, you'll never need either, but if you do, having them readily accessible can be extremely important. Safety equipment isn't exciting. It's not something people often show off on social media, but it's one of the smartest investments you can make. Now, here's an essential that becomes particularly valuable for longer trips: a good quality tire changing setup. This includes knowing how to safely change a tire, having the correct jack, and ensuring you have any tools required for your specific vehicle and caravan. Many people assume everything will be fine until the day they experience a flat tire. That's not the day you want to discover your missing equipment. Preparation creates confidence, and confidence makes traveling far more enjoyable. Now let's talk about weather, because Australian weather can be unpredictable. One day you're enjoying sunshine, the next day you're dealing with wind, rain, or both. That's why I consider a good awning tie-down system an essential. Strong winds can arrive quickly. Protecting your awning properly can help prevent expensive damage. Similarly, having a few extra pegs and ropes is always worthwhile. They're lightweight, they're inexpensive, and you'll likely use them at some point. Another item I consider genuinely useful is a small step. Some caravans sit quite high off the ground. A sturdy step makes entering and exiting the van safer and more comfortable, particularly for children, older travelers, or anyone with mobility concerns. Again, it's a simple item, but simple items often provide the greatest value. Now let's talk about cleaning supplies. This is something many new caravanners underestimate. Living in a small space means cleanliness matters. A compact broom, dustpan, microfiber cloths, basic cleaning products. These things help keep your caravan comfortable and enjoyable, especially during longer trips. The cleaner and more organized your space remains, the better your overall experience tends to be. Another essential is spare drinking water. Even if you're connected to a water supply, carrying some bottled drinking water or emergency water reserves provides extra peace of mind. It's one of those things you hope you never need, but it's nice knowing it's there. Now here's something I think every beginner needs to hear. The purpose of Caravan Essentials is not to fill every cupboard. The purpose is to solve real problems. When you're deciding whether something is essential, ask yourself a simple question. Will this genuinely make my caravanning safer, easier, or more comfortable? If the answer is yes, it's probably worth considering. If the answer is no, you may not need it at all. Because one of the biggest lessons most experienced caravanners learn is that more gear does not automatically create a better experience. In many cases, the opposite is true. The most enjoyable setups are often simple, organized, and practical. And that's exactly what we're building in this list of Caravan Essentials. We're focusing on the things that actually matter, the things you'll actually use, and the things that help make every trip smoother from the moment you leave home until the moment you return. Now let's move on to some caravan essentials that don't always get talked about, but can make a huge difference to your overall experience. And the first one is a simple checklist. Honestly, this might be one of the most valuable caravan essentials you'll ever have, because no matter how experienced you become, it's easy to forget things. Power leads, water hoses, windows, roof hatches, steps, wheel chocks, storage doors. There are a lot of things to remember when setting up and packing up a caravan. A checklist removes the guesswork. Instead of relying on memory, you rely on a simple system. Many experienced caravanners still use checklists today, not because they don't know what they're doing, but because checklists prevent simple mistakes. And simple mistakes can become expensive mistakes. Another essential that often gets overlooked is a notebook or travel journal. Now, this might sound old-fashioned, but it's surprisingly useful. You can record campsites, fuel stops, travel routes, maintenance reminders, interesting places you want to revisit, recommendations from other travelers, and before long, you have your own personal caravanning reference guide. Many of the best travel tips I've ever received came from conversations with other travelers and were written down for future trips. Now let's talk about communication. One essential item that many travelers appreciate is a portable battery bank. Phones are used for navigation, weather updates, emergency communication, campground bookings, and much more. A reliable power bank provides peace of mind when you're away from power for extended periods, particularly when free camping or traveling through remote areas. It's a simple item that can be incredibly useful. Another practical essential is a good quality phone holder for your vehicle. Again, it sounds simple, but having navigation visible and easy to follow helps reduce stress while driving. You want your setup to be safe, organized, and distraction-free. A proper mounting system helps achieve that. Now let's talk about weather protection. Because Australian weather can change very quickly, one item I highly recommend is a quality outdoor mat. If you've ever camped after rain, you'll understand why. Outdoor mats help reduce dirt entering the caravan. They create a more comfortable outdoor living space, and they help keep the inside of your van cleaner. Many caravanners use them every single day. It's one of those purchases that provides value trip after trip. Another essential is adequate sun protection. Australia is famous for many things. One of them is strong sunlight. Having sunscreen, hats, sunglasses, and shade solutions readily available can make a huge difference to comfort, particularly during summer travel. Sometimes the most important essentials are not caravan specific at all. They're simply things that help you enjoy your time outdoors safely. Now here's another item that becomes very useful over time. A spare set of keys. It sounds obvious, but lockouts happen. Keys get misplaced. Keys get dropped. Having spare keys stored safely can save a lot of stress. Many experienced travelers keep spare vehicle keys and spare caravan keys in separate locations for this exact reason. It's a small precaution that can prevent a major inconvenience. Now let's talk about maintenance essentials. One item I always recommend carrying is a basic electrical test light or multimeter. You don't need to become an electrician, but being able to perform simple checks can help identify small issues before they become larger problems. Likewise, spare fuses are worth carrying. Fuses are inexpensive. They take up almost no space, and they're one of those things that are incredibly valuable when needed. Another maintenance essential is lubricant spray. Hinges, locks, couplings, moving parts. A small can of lubricant can solve a surprising number of minor annoyances. Again, it's not exciting, but practical items rarely are. Now here's an essential that many people overlook until they experience their first rainy trip. Wet weather storage. Whether it's a dedicated container for muddy shoes, a storage tub for wet gear, or a simple waterproof bag, having a system for managing wet items makes life much easier, because once rain arrives, you'll quickly appreciate having a place to put wet clothing, shoes, and equipment. Now let's talk about comfort, because caravanning isn't just about surviving, it's about enjoying yourself. One essential that often gets overlooked is quality bedding. You'll spend a lot of time sleeping in your caravan. Comfort matters. A good mattress topper, comfortable pillows, quality bedding. These things can dramatically improve your travel experience. It's amazing how much better everything feels after a good night's sleep. And honestly, many experienced caravanners would place comfortable bedding higher on their essentials list than expensive gadgets. Now, here's another important point. Not every essential needs to be purchased immediately. One mistake many beginners make is trying to buy everything before their first trip. You don't need to do that. Start with the basics. Travel, gain experience, then add items as genuine needs arise. This approach usually saves money and prevents unnecessary purchases, because the truth is, your list of essentials will evolve over time. The way you travel, the places you visit, the length of your trips, all of these things influence what becomes essential for you. And that's perfectly normal. What matters most is focusing on practicality, not trends, not social media, not what everyone else says you must have. Focus on what genuinely improves your own caravanning experience, because that's where the real value lies. And those are the items that will continue proving their worth trip after trip, year after year. As we wrap up this video, I want to talk about what I believe is the most important caravan essential of all. And it's not a gadget, it's not a solar system, it's not a fancy upgrade, it's experience. Because no matter how much research you do, no matter how many videos you watch, and no matter how many accessories you buy, real caravanning knowledge comes from getting out there and doing it. Every trip teaches you something. Every campsite teaches you something. Every mistake teaches you something. And over time, you naturally figure out what is truly essential for your style of travel. Now, when I first started caravanning, I thought the people with the best setups were the people with the most gear, the biggest solar systems, the most accessories, the most upgrades. But after spending time on the road and meeting hundreds of fellow caravanners, I realized something very different. The happiest caravanners are usually the ones with simple, practical setups. They know what works, they know what they use, and they don't carry unnecessary clutter. That's a huge lesson, because one of the biggest mistakes beginners make is confusing wants with needs. It's very easy to see something online and think, I need that, but often you don't. You simply want it, and there's nothing wrong with buying things you want. But it's important to understand the difference. A need solves a real problem. A want is simply something you'd like to have. When you understand that difference, making purchasing decisions becomes much easier. Now let's do a quick recap of the caravan essentials we've discussed. A quality drinking water hose, power lead, wheel chocks, leveling ramps, basic toolkit, tire pressure gauge, first aid kit, torch or headlamp, portable tire inflator, storage containers, cable ties, duct tape, camping chairs, outdoor table, water containers, grey water equipment, fire safety equipment, checklist, power bank, phone holder, outdoor mat, spare keys, basic maintenance supplies, comfortable bedding. These are the kinds of items that consistently prove useful, the items you'll actually use, the items that genuinely improve your caravanning experience. Now here's something else I've learned over the years. The best caravan setup is not necessarily the most expensive one. It's the setup that works reliably for you. A family traveling full-time around Australia may have very different needs to a couple doing weekend trips. Someone who loves free camping may need different equipment to somebody who mainly stays in caravan parks. Neither approach is right or wrong, they're simply different. That's why I always encourage people to build their setup gradually. Start with the basics, travel, gain experience, then make decisions based on how you actually camp, not how somebody else camps, because your ideal setup should reflect your lifestyle, not someone else's. Another thing worth remembering is that caravan essentials evolve. The things you consider essential during your first year may not be exactly the same 5 years later. As your experience grows, your priorities often change. You become more efficient, more organized, more confident, and your setup naturally evolves alongside you. That's completely normal. In fact, it's one of the enjoyable parts of the caravanning journey. You gradually refine your system. You learn what works, you learn what doesn't. And each trip improves the next one. Now let's talk about one final essential that deserves a mention: flexibility. Because things don't always go according to plan, weather changes, roads close, bookings get cancelled, equipment breaks, travel plans shift. The more flexible you are, the easier caravanning becomes. Some of my favorite travel memories happened when things didn't go according to plan. Unexpected detours, extra nights in places I hadn't planned to stay, meeting people I never expected to meet. Those moments often become the highlights of a trip, and that's why flexibility is such an important part of the caravanning lifestyle. Now, if you're watching this as a beginner, I want to leave you with one simple message. Don't let the internet convince you that you need everything before you start. You don't. You need a safe setup, a few genuine essentials, a willingness to learn, and a sense of adventure. That's enough. Because caravanning isn't about having the perfect setup, it's about getting out there and experiencing Australia, watching the sunrise over a quiet beach, sitting around a campfire under the stars, exploring small country towns, meeting fellow travelers, creating memories with family and friends. Those experiences are what matter most, not the gadgets, not the accessories, not the upgrades, the experiences. And the funny thing is, once you start traveling, you'll quickly discover that many of your best memories have absolutely nothing to do with equipment at all. They're about places, people, moments, and adventures. So if you're just starting your caravanning journey, focus on the essentials. Keep things simple, travel light, learn as you go, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Every experienced caravanner has made them. I certainly have. And every mistake teaches you something valuable. The important thing is getting started. Because the road is waiting, Australia is waiting, and some of your best adventures may be much closer than you think. Thanks for being here with me, safe travels, and I'll see you in the next Australian caravanning video. Cheers.